Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. I'm joined as always by my co-host Glenn. How you doing, Glenn?
I am, of course, well, Dave.
Glad to hear it. So we got a lot of cool questions today, all the way ranging from how to bug check your system to how to protect your system from bug checks. So let's dive right in. Give me the questions and we'll see if I can answer most of them.
Yeah, we're going to sandbox for a while here, I think.
Yeah, it's a popular topic.
Yeah, it was good. Lots of questions. So Frag85 starts off. He says, I've been using VMs for this purpose for decades. Why use the built-in sandbox instead of a VM? Is it less resources, better performance, like 3D performance?
No, I think it's just easier. I think if you are the person that can run Hyper-V and set up a VM and install Windows in that VM and snapshot it and stuff, then you should be doing that. And that's what I do. But if I want to do something really quick and dirty, like I want to see if this app is even worth downloading on my machine, then I do that in the sandbox. You can't do Windows Store apps very easily. You can do it with a PowerShell script. I think Theo Joe has a video on that. So you might want to check that out if you want to, say, run a Windows Store app inside of a sandbox. He's got a video on how to do that. Other than that, with configuration scripts, you can make it fairly flexible in terms of how you want it, but you're really starting with a blank, empty Windows that you install one thing onto and it goes away. And if you need it more persistent than that, you probably should look at Hyper-V and a VM.
Okay, so that's where Brad G says, what's the difference between this and a virtual machine? So the virtual
question.
machine's got a bit more persistence to it. Is that sort of the notion?
Yeah, they're actually really kind of both the same thing. They're both a virtual machine of Windows running on the hypervisor on top of the hardware, beside your existing Windows instance. Not on top of it. It's not Windows within Windows. It's actually two Windows side by side on the hardware on top of the hypervisor. And that's an important distinction because the performance is almost identical to being on the bare hardware, within 1 or 2% in my testing. So I've always been very impressed with it. But if you set up a VM, then you can install whatever you want into it, set up all the apps you want, get it to a known baseline where it's maybe just like your real system. In fact, you could clone the hard drive of your real system and use it as the basis for a VM. Either way, you get a machine up and running to where you want it, and then you start snapshotting it. And you say, well, I'm going to go install WinRAR and see if I like this new version of WinRAR. And if you do, great. You can snapshot it again. If you don't, then roll that snapshot back, go back to the last one before you installed it. Or maybe it's a good policy to always go back so that your VM stays fairly clean. That's up to you and how and what you want installed in it. But it's a much more flexible approach. It just requires a little more expertise and a little more work.
Okay. Yeah, a little more technical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron Watkins says he's run across a lot of software. It just needs to be on your network. Or needs to be on your network, and it will hack into other machines through the local internet. How does Sandbox prevent that? He says the only way he knows is to set up a separate network in your router to prevent cross communication.
One thing is that it does basically a NAT. So your address that is given to the sandbox is not the same as your IP on your main machine. And what's visible to that NAT is configurable. And I think by default, it can't see very much. I don't know if it can even see the other machines on your network. So if you open up, say, network spaces or whatever, it's network neighborhood, whatever that's called today in Windows, I don't think you'll see, maybe you'll see your host machine if you're lucky. You won't see all the other machines that are peers of your host machine. And conversely, those machines can't be infected by anything that happens to run within the sandbox either.
So
now, if you do open up networking through custom configuration, or a bridge, or you do something at your router just so that it can see the other segments, then you're at some risk. So
yeah, you don't have to do anything and you're protected, but you can do stuff to unprotect yourself from that sort of.
Yeah. And if you want to know for sure, then try pinging another machine on your local network and see if you can see it. And then you'll know for sure.
Yeah. That's pretty simple. So Vilianic says, so any USB device or stick you find in the car park, you can now safely plug in a sandbox?
Nope. Don't do that. Didn't say that. Didn't claim that. What you could do,
and to be fair, I don't think that's what Vilianic's suggesting we do. I think it's more of to make the point, like, how isolated is this? Yeah.
I'm immune to sarcasm. What you could do is set up a VM, pass a particular USB port through to just the VM, so it has 100% control of that port, then plug in your unknown stick to it. But I'm not a hardware guy, so I can't tell you if somewhere in that stack could still be exposed because you're plugging it into your physical machine. So I would not do it. I would use a totally scratch PC for something like that if I Had to.
Okay. And Pixel 3 DVR, it says, and I think there might have been a couple questions sort of, it says you're driving Windows 11 here, a gaming PC, and says there's no Windows Sandbox to enable. So is it region limited, like not available in the European Union?
Not that I'm aware of. As far as I know, it's on everything except home. So if you're on home in the European Union, yes, you will not have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Home
and if it's
anywhere?
A video gaming machine,
or home in the European Union. Okay, anywhere.
No,
any
home
version
anywhere,
of home, it doesn't work. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he says you can run VMware just fine. So, yeah.
Right.
5654 Martin is wondering about your setup. He says it looks like you're running your browser in your main system. He says, are you running it in a VM, or are you regularly disposing it with the Windows Sandbox? He says he's trying to keep his system as clean as possible. He said back in the days there was software basically would freeze your system so that it reboots in the previous state. Fortunately, though, that software is not available anymore.
Yeah, no, I run like 2 browser extensions, and I don't download a lot of software. What I do install, I'm doing through APT or apt on the command line or brew. So I'm not just grabbing a lot of random stuff through my browser. And because I've only installed, like I think I said, 2 browser extensions ever, and I don't generally add new ones, it's a pretty small attack surface. So I don't have to reset my browser, and I'm not going to sketchy sites, so I don't delete my history. And if I was doing stuff that I was concerned people were going to find out about, I would probably be much more vigilant. But worst case, they're going to see me watch my own show.
And what you block through your router? You block what, all communication to like 2 or 3 different countries or something? Used to.
Yeah,
okay.
I used to block China, North Korea, and Russia. My lawnmower stopped working. To make a long story short.
Man, if I had a nickel every time my lawnmower stopped working because I couldn't communicate with Russia.
Yeah, this one was China.
Still be waiting for my first nickel. Yeah.
So I opened up China, and I went out and I did a restart on the mower, and all of a sudden it works. So I'm going to turn it back off and see how long it takes to quit working again. But, it didn't take a firmware update, so I'm not sure what it actually needs to talk to the mothership in China for. Probably uploading plans of my yard for military use, for all I know. But
so did you unlock China, or did you unlock China, North Korea, and Russia?
Just China this time.
Okay, so yeah. So you're still blocking 2 out of the 3. Yeah.
If I buy Russian or North Korean ICBM, then I need to unlock 4.
Yeah. When the comrade mower comes, then you go. Game of Fight says, is there any way to check differences from the launch and then post-install? Says,
No,
and this is
not that I
getting
know
to
of.
virus stuff. Says a lot of viruses will be silent, so you won't necessarily see anything. So it needs some other way of telling what happened.
Yeah, no, not that I know of. You could probably find utilities, and sysinternals would be a good place to start that can do registry deltas and stuff to show you what has changed since the machine was new. So you would boot that sandbox, run the registry snapshot, do all your installs, and then run a file delta or a registry delta to tell you what got installed and what registry entries got modified. So I don't think there are built-in tools for that, but that's how I would go about that.
Yeah, and Bulky Bear OG is saying, he's using Hyper-V and its snapshot feature to test his apps, and especially the installers and uninstallers. So it takes a snapshot right before install the app, and if automation isn't ready, convert and try again. So he said, is Windows Sandbox more or less useful for that then?
Probably less useful if you know how to do a full VM, because the snapshots you can choose to keep and make new checkpoints, right? You can say, well, I installed this app and I like it. I want that to be part of my base Windows install now. So I'm going to take a checkpoint now after the install. But with Sandbox, it's gone whenever you close it.
So VM is for you and people like you, and Sandbox is a challenge even for me probably, but that's the furthest I should try.
Well, you can try whatever you want, but that's kind of the target market, yeah.
Right. DG8RS, will antivirus suites have access to the Sandbox?
No.
Okay. So you said it'd be nice
they
to
can't
actually
see into the Sandbox, and the Sandbox things can't see back out. Don't know how you would go about. I guess if you went to like McAfee.com inside of your Sandbox and downloaded an antivirus and installed it, you could run an antivirus if it lets you inside of the Sandbox, but that would offer no host protection, and your host protection is a layer of protection around your Sandbox, prevent it getting infected, but not really the intent. Separation is the ideal.
Google user 4720 says at 7 minutes in, he says, no antivirus is good. Why would you want people to spend on stupid antivirus?
Well, I don't think they should. They should just use Windows Defender, which is built into Windows and is free and is good.
That's how I recall the comment. Yeah. But even in the previous
antivirus?
Yeah, even the previous question you mentioned, if you're running McAfee or something, people choose to do that, but that's not something that you've suggested.
Not for years, no.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a long time. AVTLO, if I'm in a Windows Sandbox session and a hacker gets remote access to my PC, is his access restricted to the Sandbox only and not the host?
Yes.
Okay. And also throws in an extra comment there. Fantastic videos. Thank you for investing all this effort into your channel. So, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I could expand at length on that, but I think I've kind of already touched on it that, once something is in the sandbox, the whole intent is to keep it contained there and it can't get out to the rest of your machine.
Yeah. I've got these all marked. Yeah. What if a virus is built specifically to penetrate sandboxes?
Let's say that that's possible. Yeah. And there have been in the history of the world elevation attacks that would cross out of a VM, but I don't know how they worked offhand. But if you did that, then yes, it would be a good attack vector because people would think they were protected when they weren't. But you could only then probably infect sandboxes, escalate out of them, attack their host machine. It would be a pretty catastrophic hack, but it would be a very big technical challenge to achieve it. So
okay. And Pedro8240 says, how easy is it for an application to detect that it's being run in a virtualized environment or in a sandbox? He says there are malicious software that will behave when it's running in a VM and will wreak havoc when it knows it's running on your OS proper.
Well, you can definitely detect by asking the operating system if virtualization is enabled. And I believe Task Manager shows you that answer in the Task Manager itself on the CPU page. So it's pretty easy for apps to find out. How hard is it to hide that from a app? That's another question. It probably could be done pretty convincingly well if you decided that the app and the operating system if the operating system and the hypervisor were going to collude and hide that information from the app, they probably could. But I don't know that everybody ever does it. And yeah, what you get is you get a VM, you test the app. It's like, oh, it's fine because it knew it was in a VM, I guess is the thing. And then you run it on a real machine and it does its bad thing.
Yeah. I won't get too far into that. Barnard Drab, does it protect against root and boot kits? Yes,
because a rootkit might rootkit the sandbox, but it'll be erased when the sandbox is reset. And same with bootkits. UEFI, I think it could only infect the UEFI fake host of the VM itself. Unless it could, like we talked about in the other question, escape the VM somehow, but that's almost science fiction. Not quite, but almost.
Not a guarantee. Shalisk, is there an easy way to see what has changed since the pristine sandbox was launched? For example, did it change any Windows system files and what it wrote to the registry and what files it changed and so on?
That was probably answered by my answer about file delta and a registry delta and how to snapshot before and after.
Yeah.
So that's how you would do that. Yeah.
Okay. Peter 572 wants to know, does VPN work inside a sandbox? Said it seems no.
I don't know why it would not. My instinct would have been yes, but if you're saying it seems like not, then perhaps for some reason it doesn't. Yeah. But I mean, eventually it's going to come through your system's host IP, and so your VPNifying of your IP address probably isn't going to be effective, but it should still quote unquote work.
So remote desktop might be more possible than VPN?
No, VPN is more about changing where your host traffic enters the internet and appears to be coming from.
Okay. Cheesecake Johnson Turbo. That's the full name. Hi, would you recommend this as a secure development environment to which I would connect work accounts?
No, you'd probably want to do a full VM then.
Okay.
And then, make that VM your work VM, and you can keep it on your main machine, but don't cross-pollinate your work and your home life. That's a good idea, actually. I like that.
You. Yeah. Cheesecake Johnson Turbo. Andrew R. Running Proxmox on the desktop, if I understand you correctly. He says, never considered that. For mere mortals, VirtualBox should run fine on Windows Home as far as he knows, since Hyper-V is not supported on that SKU, on that SKU.
I do have a Storinator running Proxmox, which runs all my other systems. It runs a bunch of containers. It runs a bunch of Linux machines. It runs a Windows host. It runs a Mac host, of all things. But yeah, I don't necessarily. So give me the question again, because I don't want to get too rambling.
He just says running Proxmox on the desktop.
Yeah, because I don't run Proxmox on my desktop machine. I do run Hyper-V on the one desktop machine, because that seems very low overhead, and it's not a whole layer. It still is technically, but it kind of just acts as a side operating system. So you don't have to boot Proxmox and then install Windows on top of that.
And what's the Mac element that you're running on that Storinator?
It's Mac OS. So it's a virtual machine running Mac OS. So I can log into it as a Mac and I get the Apple icon and all that.
Right. Yeah.
It's not fast by any stretch. And it's running the old Intel Mac bits. So it's limited on which operating systems you can upgrade to. But, I kind of did it just to see if I could get it working, and I got it working and snapshotted it, and then I'm like, okay.
So you can sit on the couch in the house with your laptop and dial in.
The very first things I ever did on a Mac were actually through emulation, because I was doing an iPhone app and I needed Xcode. Didn't have a Mac, so I set up an emulator and got that working. This is a long time ago, but my first iPhone app.
Okay, so not so much Frankly says now. He says, for those of us on the home edition, says, if you got any suggestions? He said, Sandboxy used to be free, or I suppose a VML disposable partition maybe. Any chances you got any suggestions?
On Linux, there's QEMU. I wonder if that's available in any way on Windows. I don't think so, but that'd be one thing to check. There's, of course, VMware, and there might be a free edition of VMware still. There used to be Virtual PC. That's long gone. So I think VMware is probably your best bet. And hopefully there's a cheap or free SKU you can use at home. If not, pony up.
It's not what?
I said, if not, pony up the money.
Pony up, that's right. So definitely not on the home edition. We had a couple more questions about that. Billy Gilbert, congrats on the 1 million mark. Curious if this could be used when users do not have permission to install apps on a laptop or PC. Could permission be granted to install apps just in the sandbox while giving the sandbox a USB port or Bluetooth access industrial process instrumentation? I think it might take too much effort, but I'm curious.
In theory, that should work, except for the USB part. I don't think Sandbox supports USB at all. So there's no way to control your industrial control devices with USB from the Sandbox, because it does not have USB. You could do that with a VM under Hypervisor and pass through that port. But with a Sandbox, that's not going to work. But you should be able to be effectively administrator of the Sandbox, even if you're not administrator of the host PC. So yeah, if you had to install an app and it requires administrative rights, you could probably do that in the Sandbox, assuming you're allowed to run the Sandbox.
I'm thinking in my corporate environment, like, yeah, well, the first thing is I wouldn't be able to even install and run Sandbox. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a policy decision.
Right. Although I think it would be, should be easier to get permission to run Sandbox to do stuff like that. But they'd be like, well, why do you want us to give you permission to install something so you can install stuff that we don't want to give you permission to install? Oh, no, it's fine.
You shouldn't be installing porn at work. That's terrible.
Yeah, it should come pre-installed. No, I don't know.
Depends where you work.
Yeah. Macman, Sandbox Plus. So what's the deal on the Sandboxy? There are a bunch of people asking about that. What's the usage of Sandboxy? I missed that. What do you think about Sandboxy? How does it compare to Sandboxy?
Sandbox IE?
Sandbox IE. Yeah.
Then I'm going to guess it's for sandboxing Internet Explorer.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that from context.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a guess. I'm guessing it's a Sandbox app from a third-party vendor that does some amount of sandboxing for apps on Windows, and one of those apps is probably IE.
Ah, okay. There you go. That's the end of our... Well, I have no knowledge of it. That's the end of your knowledge.
That's all I have to say about Sandbox.
That's right. Vasudev Menon. Wasn't Defender Application Guard deprecated with 24H2, with version 24H2?
Didn't see that when I went to read about it, but anything's possible. But I did not notice that, if true.
Dave, you got any idea how to optimize VHDX files with Docker on Windows?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay.
They can get really large, and I have a couple of my own that are like 160 gigabytes, and there's 40 gigabytes, and maybe the snapshots are taking up room. I would have thought snapshots are in a separate folder or something, but try deleting snapshots that you can afford to delete and see if that helps the VHDX size. That'd be my first guess.
And what's the VHDX?
Virtual hard drive file.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it'll be like a 40 gigabyte file that represents a 40 gigabyte hard drive.
Yeah. Excellent. That's not very efficient.
Well, it's great until that 40 gigabyte file is now 150 gigabytes and you're not sure why.
Anahi, did I miss the part about solving the GPU acceleration situation?
Yes, because I took it out because it turns out it's on by default as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Because I ran the Heaven benchmark and it was cranking along at like several hundred frames per second. So I know it wasn't CPU rendering anyway.
So essentially, no, they didn't miss it because it wasn't there to be missed. Well, it was
Correct.
Before I took
it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a paradox.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Kind of paradoxically, it seems like it might be, but it's not. Yeah. Would that be Alanis Morissette? Isn't it ironic? No, that's a whole other. Brian S. How much thrash?
Wait. I don't want to do I want to do the Alanis Morissette bit because that song has always annoyed me because none of the shit she says in it is actual irony, right? It's all just inconvenience.
Yeah.
No. Rains on your wedding day. That sucks, but it's not ironic. That's probably the most ironic thing in that song. And then somebody pointed out when I was complaining about this, I was doing a little rant about it, and they go, well, maybe that's the greatest irony of all. And she got you.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's Inception irony, right? Inception level
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah, that's a sandbox in a sandbox, wrapped in a riddle, surrounded by an
I wouldn't
enigma.
put it past Alanis either.
No,
I know
well, yeah, Canadians can be a little bit sneaky because you don't suspect it, and then they just whip around and man, they got you. But watch out for them sneaky Canadians. Brian S. Oh boy, sometimes I can't stop myself. Most of the time, how much thrash is caused by enabling Sandbox with something like VirtualBox? At least I can see the changes that are made.
Well, there should be no changes that are made. So thrash is reset every time you restart the sandbox.
Yeah.
It's back to zero thrash and fresh and clean. Yeah, that's the best way to answer that. So there is no thrash, and it doesn't thrash your main machine. Installing Sandbox doesn't probably do much other than maybe set up a couple registry entries. But yeah, no, it's very anti-thrash.
This old Chris says, so if he's testing game mods, you'd have to install the game every time you start the Sandbox?
Game mods. Yeah, you'd have to install all that stuff every time. The whole game and everything else. So that's when you want a VM.
Yeah, or I guess if you open up a Sandbox, install the game, run a mod, try it, and it works, then you can install another mod, try that, see how it works, and build on the same thing. But once you refresh your Sandbox, you're done.
Yeah, let me know in the comments. It sounds like I should almost do an episode where I take Hypervisor, show you how to set it up, create a VM, install Windows on it, make a snapshot, do something with it, roll it back to the last snapshot, set a checkpoint. That's probably a 20-minute episode, but I didn't know if that's too technical for my audience, or would they like to know that?
I'd be curious about that.
All right, well, I'll do that then.
I don't know. I think it's an idea. I mean, this stuff can get, again, that whole notion of the VM, the technical skills required to do that, and the Sandbox being an easy, simple thing. Yeah, showing some of those differences would be kind of neat.
I just noticed I'm all blinged out here. Sorry about that.
Oh, you just unblinged. Shizek says, what are the disk space requirements for this feature? More specifically, what kind of data overhead would I expect to see for, say, a 20 gig install of software?
About 20 gig.
Okay, yeah, same thing. Yeah, that's for the VMDK or VHDX files involved. Those virtual
I think
disks
it is
can get
20 gig too when I checked.
Okay.
Or mine was about 20 gig. I'm surprised it's that big, but I guess they give you enough disk space to be able to install stuff. So
Yeah, what's the minimum for running Windows?
it's probably not much less than that. I bet it's like 10 gig or something now.
Yeah. And then the other one that people like to get into this sort of the Inception stuff again, Perkele and Shane Bro. The real question is, can you open a Sandbox within the Sandbox, and how far could you push it?
No. As far as I know, the Windows Sandbox feature does not have the sandbox enabled with it. But if you did it with VMs, you could do it all the way down until you ran out of memory.
Right.
So let's say Sandbox actually exposed it. So you could go into the Windows Sandbox, open up another sandbox inside there, and open another one. Turtles all the way down.
I was just going to say turtles on turtles.
Until you run out of turtles.
Yeah. Random bits. This looks way easier than spinning up a traditional VM for a quick app test. Yeah. It says that only for a single instance, you can have multiple sandboxes running simultaneously. Oh, that's interesting. Can you do multiple sandboxes?
I didn't know. I don't know. I never tried.
Holy
I'm
cow.
almost curious.
Okay. Do you have any appliances connected to the internet?
No modern appliances. No, my dishwasher's old enough that it's not, and my
Just
washing
some really
machine's
old
not.
appliances, or what? What do you mean no modern appliances?
Well, TVs, I guess.
Oh, okay, right.
I
Sorry.
have TVs that I use just as monitors that for some reason I attach to the internet so they can get firmware updates and stuff.
Right.
But then you wind up getting banners. Samsung is removing this advertising or adding this advertising feature or removing some show. It's annoying. In the shop, I have a 70-inch plasma monitor, and it is just a monitor. It has no tuner. It has no speakers. And it was my main TV for 10, 15 years till we replaced it. And still kind of works. But I like that, just a monitor. Speaking of fixing things, my house has dual washing machines. So it has 2 washers, 2 dryers, which really means you can't mix and match. It would look stupid. So after whatever it was, 12 or 15 years of 4 kids or 6 people, 7 people living here, they got worn out. And they were all kind of end of life. So I decided to replace them all. And now they're starting 5, 10 years later again, starting to have troubles. And it's always, do you fix it or do you replace all 4? Or you keep throwing money into the problematic one. And that was the question today. But the guy was like, he didn't know what was wrong with it. He says, all the sensors test fine, but it just stops working. So you load a load in and it just stops. Can't figure out why. And he's like, well, it could be the control board. It could be the heat box. So, we could replace those. I'm like, well, which one is it likely to be? And the whole point of it was that, they can replace those things, but if it's not the issue, they don't credit you for having guessed wrong. And that's not really solving the problem. That's throwing parts at the issue until the problem goes away. And I don't really like paying for that as a tech service, but
that's the proverbial parts cannon, right? You just start firing the parts cannon at it. Yeah. Whew. Holy cow. So where are you at with that?
Well, I told him that I said if it was me in my shop, I would replace or I'd swap the control boards between the 2 dryers and see if the problem follows the control board. And his answer was, well, yeah, but then I might break your other working dryer and then you'd be screwed. I'm like, well, I'm operating on the assumption you won't break it, so please don't. But so he wouldn't go that way. So yeah, I didn't make much progress. So they're going to put a new control board in the old dryer and see if it fixes it.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome. So you hacked into the control unit for that transmission on your old Camaro, but you can't hack in and reset this control board? Or?
It's probably a thermal issue that, once it gets hot, it stops working or something. And then maybe the control board will fix it. We'll see. Okay.
Random Bits wants to know, he said this looks way easier than spinning up a traditional VM for a quick app test. Is this only for a single instance, or can you have multiple sandboxes running simultaneously, like different windows? Or
no, single instance, as far as I could tell.
As far as you can tell. What do you know?
When I tried it. Yeah, every time I tried it, it just reopened my existing ones.
Right. And then when you're talking about doing an episode on the VM stuff and maybe some of the sandbox, says what you might want to consider is what are the 3 biggest benefits, 3 biggest drawbacks? He was looking particularly for Sandbox, but you can do Sandbox and the VM, so just consider that when you're doing your episode.
Okay.
2 Badger 2 says, Dave, I enjoy your videos. Thanks for sharing. Do you have a procedure or software for cleaning up Windows 10 or 11? Issues that you talked about that thrash your OS. Thank you.
When Space, I use Space Explorer 99, which is, dates itself right there for disk space issues. And I use an old copy of my own registry cleaner from like 20 years ago because I know precisely what it does and what it doesn't do. And so I know it's pretty safe to run. There's not much you can do with a system that's been thrashed. Like a registry cleaner in the old days, what it would do is say, fine, look, you had this DLL that was to support CorelDRAW, and now it's in the registry, and it's got its class ID and its IID and its local server 32 all registered in there. But that file is long gone when you uninstalled CorelDRAW. So you might as well remove all the references to dead files. But you can't just nuke all CorelDRAW data because you don't know. Maybe the guy's going to reinstall it again. Now, some of those were his settings. So there's always a trade-off in what you can clean up and what you can't. And we always did on the premise of if it's a pointer to stale data, then it's a useless pointer. Even if they reinstall it, I guess it might become useful in the future. But that was kind of the benchmark we went on. And I mean, we supported it, and it didn't burn anybody that I know of. So, but it's also not super aggressive.
And how often would you run either both of those tools in your machine?
I used to run like defrag, registry cleaner monthly, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
And antivirus and anti-malware more often. Because
Right.
I don't think I had automatic detection back in the early 2000s, late 90s. It was a scan-based system.
So registry cleaner you're still using like 20 years later?
Well, I haven't used it in a couple of years.
Okay,
I should be
okay.
clear. I wipe my machine, and I keep my machine fairly fresh.
Right.
Yeah, my Windows install, if it fails, I used to restore it from backup.
Yeah,
I just set it up again now.
Yeah.
It's faster.
Yeah. That doesn't happen too often, though, does it?
No.
Until I say I'm going to reinstall it.
Well, I just switched to a new machine.
That's
got a new
oh yeah.
episode coming
Okay.
up on that. I got rid of the
yeah.
Threadripper, and I replaced it with something very small but more powerful. So
Oh, so
I
just
set that
clean
up from
install.
scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Cybergeek. That was great. What's the go-to tool for logging all Windows API calls that a program makes?
Oh, I don't know what the current tool is, but I bet if you go to sysinternals, they'll have something for you.
Okay. System terminals?
Sysinternals.
Sysinternals, sorry.
Yeah.
I was half listening.
good to clarify.
Reading the next question there. Diatonic delirium. Didn't XP Embedded have the option to use a RAM disk to prevent writing to the disk card SSD? Said it required an explicit commit to write file changes if memory serves.
I never used that feature, but I can see how they might have done it to avoid wear and tear on the drive.
We have a question from a person, 1181. Is there a program, open source, that can find duplicate files, even if a name is a bit different? So like file one, file one's like file two, but the sizes, sorry, like file one and file two, but the sizes are identical?
Yeah. Yes, because I think it goes on time and size now. I know Spaceman 99, this app is almost 30 years old, is one way to do it. It will show you duplicates that it finds, but it slows the scan down a lot because it must do a linear scan instead of a fast search through the list. So it slows it down a lot. One I've used on my iPhone was from SysTweak, duplicate file or photo finder. And it can go through all your photos. And I've used, I think, on the Mac too, and it will find, if you've got 5 photos of the same thing, or you took 10 photos almost of the same thing, it'll tell you, hey, do you want to collapse these and so on and so forth. So that's from a company called SysTweak, SYS Tweak. So
What's the first one called again? Sorry?
duplicate photo finder.
No, the very first one you mentioned.
Spaceman 99.
Spaceman, like
Space
man
Manager.
in space. Oh, space.
Yeah, it's a little
Manager.
astronaut guy.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's
the
what I'm.
logo. But
Yeah. So you said spaceman.
It's a double
I'm going
entendre.
Spaceman. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's got 2 meanings or something. Donald Corvo, can you show us how to use the unified write filter feature on Windows? UWF? No.
No,
Okay.
sorry. Can't help you with that one.
What was the other one? The tool you mentioned, something hook, wasn't it? With the 2 mice thing?
Oh, set Windows hook?
Yeah. Oh, can't be done. Well, I guess set Windows hook, but I've said too much. Yeah.
Powerful API.
It's just a Jetta. I think I'm asking this question just because I'm a Jetta guy. Or it was until mine collapsed. What are your thoughts on Microsoft activation scripts? You can find it on GitHub, and I have allegedly used it more than a few times. I think it's great, but never had any ties to Microsoft, so I'm just curious if you have any opinions about it.
Yeah, my opinion is pay for your software. I pay for my Adobe, and I don't have any relationship to Adobe either, other than they make a product that I like and I use, and I pay for it. So that's my theory. So yeah, you can steal stuff, but just because you can get away with it or it's easy to steal doesn't make it right or ethical to do it. So
Yeah. Gary's Projects. Dave, did you ever encounter the program Resource Hacker during the golden days of XP?
No, I didn't use it. I used Visual Studio because you could open up a 32-bit executable and extract all the resources, walk the resource tree and all the forks and stuff. And so it did everything I needed it to do. I'm sure Resource whatever would do more, but do we lose Glenn?
No, my keyboard keeps flipping out on me. It comes
you're
and
back.
it goes. Yeah, stupid damn thing. Oh, I hit my mute button because I was futzing around, so... hopefully it doesn't screw up too much. John Smith says, hey Dave, can you do a video on signing executables and or Office documents that have macros? So he says, where to buy the certificates, how to sign them, etc.
Yeah, I would start with let'sencrypt.com and see if they have a free solution that you can use. Otherwise, you're going to go into VeriSign or somebody similar. I was going to write a Windows driver. I did write a Windows driver. And then I realized, well, I can't run it unless I sign it. So I started looking at that process and holy cow, it's a little complicated. So hopefully it's not that whole process, but if you can get a certificate from let'sencrypt.com or let'sencrypt.com, I think that's it. That'll make your life a lot easier. That's what I use for my website to run HTTPS anyway.
Oh, there you go. Immigrant B1. Is there a book or course or series of books or courses that you recommend for Windows administration?
That I don't know. I'm not a Windows IT admin expert by any stretch. Don't really know Active Directory and those kinds of things. So I would imagine all the MS certification books are right in that, problem area. So that's what I would look at. And you can probably buy them cheap for somebody who's already done the class. So.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good point. Dust and Ashes 419. Why does the existence of your boot drive /Windows /System32 config OS data cause the blue screen of death with seemingly no way to resolve the issue?
So, is either a car accident or an explosion in the background? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
It's not thunder?
Anyway, no, not here.
Yeah.
It was much sharper than that, too.
So that's in your neighborhood. That's... Okay. Do you want to go take a look?
No. If I hear more shots, then I'll
shots fired.
arm up
Shots
and go
fired.
up there.
Yeah. Live on Dave's Attic.
The question.
So he says, Dustin Ashes 419 says, why does the existence of your whatever C/Windows /System32 /config?
So what happens? I got it.
The blue screen.
So what happens is, in Windows, there are certain things that are called hives, and they form your Windows registry. So when you go into the regedit, you'll see HKey local machine, HKey current control set, or whatever the different hives are in there. Each one is backed by a file. Now there's a special one, which is, I think, for like automated setups or something called OS data. And what happens is if it's not there because it's not supposed to be there, then everything is fine. But if it's there, it assumes, they've given me an additional registry hive, and it goes to parse that, and it's very early in the boot process, and you've supplied a file to the operating system now, and you had to be administrator to do it. So you can't just walk up to a machine in the library and bork it this way, unless you're the administrator. But if you are the administrator, you can create a file, which it will then think is a hive, and on the next boot, it will crash. And it will reboot, and it will come up and it will crash, and it'll get stuck in a boot loop and basically bork the entire machine. So you definitely don't want to do that. And you could say, well, that's terrible of Microsoft. And yeah, it should be a little more resilient to bad data in a hive, I would think. But at the same time, you're creating a malicious file in a system, lying, saying it's a registry hive, putting it in the place of a registry hive, booting it and laughing because, hey, it didn't like it. Well, don't do that. It would be my recipe, but...
There are other things that people with admin privileges can do to bork their system as well, right? So
yeah, it's a curiosity because it makes the machine crash, and that's actually fairly hard to do these days. So.
Yeah, would it be easier for a malicious administrator to delete files to cause serious system issues than to create this file to create an endless loop of?
I think you could just echo hello banana into the file, and that should be sufficient to create it and cause problems. So it's probably one of the shortest paths to screwing up a machine that I know of.
Now, the other thing with that blue screen of death we were talking earlier, you said it's a bug check, right?
Right.
And so I said, well, where the heck does that term?
Death.
Yeah, where does that term bug check come from?
Yeah, that term comes from Microsoft, and it came over with the DEC guys from DEC, like Dave Cutler and Mark Lukowski and those guys. And the term bug check is actually the name of the API that you call if you're in the kernel and you detect fatal inconsistency. Memory freed twice, writing outside of the page table, whatever. You detect something happened and the only good solution is to stop the machine. You call an API called bug check. So we never called it bluescreen of death. We called them bug checks. And did a little research, and that term goes back as far as at least VMS and perhaps RSX11 from DEC. So whether it originated with Dave C., it's certainly in his time frame at DEC, but I'm kind of waiting on an answer to see what the actual origins of the term are. Tune in next week where I tell you the real answer.
I remember that interview you did with him, and he kept, bug check, the bug check, bug check. So I just assumed it was sort of a universal term.
Internally, it sure was.
Yeah, but for the Windows guys, it certainly was when it came from DEC. So the two mouse thing here, a couple interesting things there. Let's see. Monty Starr says in the time of XP, he says, or 7, can't remember clearly, he was able to use two mouses with separated pointers on the screen. He says, if he remembers right, the other mouse was connected via the PS2 port, and the other was connected via USB, and somehow he managed to change settings so there were two mice with two mouses with two pointers. So had no clue how to do things, so it was a total hell to change all the settings back to normal. All this mess just because. Can two play this game? No. Well, it would be interesting, but didn't work. So,
as far as I know, the only option like that was multi-point, and I don't think it ever shipped. It was maybe in beta and out as a demo for educators and stuff, but I don't think it was ever a commercial product you could buy that I know of. But it's possible it was, but.
And Herbie1620 says there was someone who set up a single Linux box with 4 monitors, each with a keyboard and mouse. Said they could work independently, like individual computers. It was set up in a school, probably using leftover parts.
Yeah, I don't know. On Windows, you can certainly have multiple Windows stations, and each Windows station can have its own monitor, keyboard, and mouse. But I've never seen 2 keyboards and 2 mice and 2 monitors plugged into a Windows PC and set up as 2 workstations. So that may or may not be possible. If it is, let me know if you've ever seen it done.
We're getting to the end of the questions here, so we'll run through the last sort of few. Robert M. says,
"Oh, don't telegraph that. People start dropping off, man. These are the best questions."
No.
Right?
I was going to say, is this where some of the funny and the peculiar ones come up and the stuff where we get a little bit snarky in our answers, maybe, but we'll see.
There you go.
You got to stick around to find out. Robert M. Hi, Dave. I have to chuckle that the guy who authored parts of Windows now runs a Mac as his daily driver. Says he's been a loyal Windows user since the 3.1 days, but his wife and kids have gone over to the dark side, Apple. He says, I'm wondering if you would do an episode comparing Windows to Mac and maybe toss in a little Linux as well. Says they all clearly are pros and cons. It would be nice to see a high-level comparison of the 2 or 3.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that would be problematic with that is that the pros are easy to do. The cons, you're going to do Linux, well, there's fewer apps for it. But then people will generally say, oh, but it's more stable. But how do I prove that? How do I prove that Linux is more stable than Windows, which is more or less stable than Mac OS? I mean, I can look at industry statistics and data centers and stuff, but I don't think that's all that revealing for a machine that you run on the desktop with an NVIDIA GPU and a RAID card. So that kind of the subjective, how reliable is it and that kind of thing is something I want to stay away from. So it depends if there's enough content in an episode like that without a bunch of speculation and religion. I got to think about that some more.
The thing that tweaks for me is my workplace is PC centered. So for me, like to have a PC at home, it's the same system. Although I did switch to a Mac a long time ago, then I now abandoned it. My wife uses it solely and I don't, but I'd like to get back into the Mac atmosphere again and sort of have some skill in both.
Right.
Just, there's things I like in one and the other pairs with my iPhone and that sort of stuff. But, I've been using the PC now for a few years at home and it's fine and comfortable because I use that all day at work. But yeah, to me, it's
the biggest problem I still face is Control C versus Command C.
Yeah.
And the keyboard shortcuts and it moves over one key and my brain will catch up. But if I'm just switching back and forth with the monitor hotkey, I get confused as to which one I'm on and what the right keystrokes are.
I never did get very good at the Apple shortcuts just because my work computer use was so much more prevalent. than the home
Right.
use, but that's okay. Mad Brad Freeman says, good Lord, do folks still use IIS? He says, Aptainer, formerly Singularity, is much preferable to Docker. No root required. I suffered through Lotus Notes. You missed only grief and pain.
Wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Although we did have a comment from someone who was actually involved in the Lotus Note stuff, and he had a nice long note in there about all that stuff and stuff they'd gone through and what they were trying to do. And he thought that was, I think it was supposed to be part of the IBM sort of OS2, Microsoft killer. And yeah, it kind of never worked out that way. So,
Right.
But, yeah. David Holder, I put this one in because I think it was me that made the comment. It says, that was a really funny episode, gentlemen. My guess is the major reason a user would place an Excel worksheet into a Word doc is for inserting a linked bar or line or pie chart, since Word 365 does support that feature. It's especially handy if the Word doc is produced programmatically around data from a database. Well...
Oh, yeah, I'm totally down with putting an Excel spreadsheet inside of a Word document. That's a basic use case, I think. The question was with OLE object linking and embedding, to edit that spreadsheet, you could click on the spreadsheet and all your title bars would change and your toolbars would change to Excel, and you'd be in kind of a hybrid of Word or Excel with the Excel toolbars. And this was hugely complex for the apps to manage. And writing an app that did OLE object linking and embedding was very complicated. And I'm kind of the opinion that it could just be a picture until you double clicked on it and then you edit it in Excel. And when you save it, it goes back in the document. That would have been way easier.
Well, and my example that I was thinking in my head when they did that was a 59-page financial plan, business plan for work back in about 2004. And oh my God, I mean, there was probably 20 charts and 5 spreadsheets, and it was kind of convenient that we could do that, but kind of a hassle. And it was just, mind you, Microsoft Word was a little bit fussier than as well too, but boy, there was some tricky stuff going on. And it was, you could link them as just snapshots or dynamic links or non-dynamic. And it was, it gets really hard. If you're just talking about a simple spreadsheet or something and one of them in a 2-page document, it doesn't matter how many pages, but when you start putting 30 or 40 of them in there and they've got some complexity, the ability to edit them is all fine and well, but to practically do it in a fairly complex spreadsheet or something in there is not fun.
Yeah, it's much better than it used to be. I haven't done it since like the late 90s, and obviously computers have come a long way, and it's probably really fast now, and my memories are probably stale. So
I think that's the other piece too, and same thing with me. 20 years ago, it's a whole different deal now. So yeah. I hope I don't have to do that again. VK3 FBAB, David, be interested to know what your experience was like at Microsoft with respect to source code control. It says, I'm guessing during your time it wasn't like Git like it is now. It said, did it work well? Was it reliable? Would Git have been a massive leap forward?
Yes. We used a thing called Slime, which was Source Library Manager.
Right.
And so it used a UNC path, and it kept your checkout state on the server. And so if you checked out the code and deleted the folder, you created a broken enlistment, and that was just, you didn't do that. That was a bad thing to do. It was
People noticed.
Yeah. I don't want to say it was fragile, but it wasn't Git. It was early. It was homemade, and eventually got rolled into a retail product called Microsoft Delta, which if you have a box for Microsoft Delta, I've been looking for one for a long time, especially if it's still got the disks in it. But I want a boxed copy of Microsoft Delta. So if you can help me find that, that would be awesome. After that, we went to Source Depot, I think. And then there was after Source Depot, they went to something else, and then they went to Git, but that's in the 20-some years after I left. So I believe they're all Git now.
Oh man, this now moving into the cloud stuff and OneDrive and even our electronic filing system at work with vision histories and oh, that has saved my tail so many times. Because back in the old days, I'd pull up this massive spreadsheet and I only need to work with one little piece of it. So I just basically wipe the rest out, work on my little piece, and then you're in a rush. No, quit, close, save. Yep. Oh, no, don't. Oh, and I'd overwrite. I'd lost more data in those quick little not paying attention clicks. But now with version history and you can get previous versions and restore stuff, it saved my bacon a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is kind of like that Git stuff. You delete your record. It's like, we're gone and it's not there anymore. So yeah, it saved my tail. Dave Dude. Sounds like it might be there's someone else named Dave.
Well, if he's younger than me, I was Dave first.
Hi, Dave. Task manager. Oh, not the first one not even the first Dave P at Microsoft, though, right?
No, not even.
Yeah. Hi, Dave. Task manager question. Task manager is great. That's not the question. And I can't thank you enough for writing it. Also not the question. On odd occasions, when I need more firepower, I turn to Process Explorer. Did you ever work with the sysinternals team, and do you use the sysinternals tools at all? Oh, we talked about that.
I met Mark once, and that's about it. I have used Process Explorer, and it can be handy if you're doing some very fine edge cases. It's no more powerful than Task Manager. It's not like you can kill stuff that Task Manager can't, except for system apps, because they put policy in there to stop you from doing that now. But it's got a bunch of extra stuff, thread tracking and debug helpful stuff that if your needs are more complicated than what Task Manager provides, it's the next tool up the chain. I generally just stick to Task Manager because I'm used to it and it does everything I need it to do.
You're familiar with it,
yeah. Of the time.
Yeah. Brian Weld, this is a question. Probably, I don't know how many people asked this, but maybe just Brian. Hey, Dave, would you rather fight 500 duck-sized horses or 5 horse-sized ducks?
I'd rather fight the little horses because they seem more fragile and bony and you can kind of kick your way around with big stomping boots. But the ducks are huge and they're going to outweigh you and run you over and bite you with their big beaks.
Well, your neighbor has ponies, so you know what? Even a small pony is nothing to fool around with. Man.
Yeah, if they were just a quarter the size of the ponies, they'd be less dangerous.
That's the duck horse sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
JW8292, has anybody checked the Wi-Fi 7 AP for harmonics?
Yeah, I thought about that, but I don't know where they would show up and why a 6 gigahertz harmonic would show up and be loud down at 900 megahertz. It's possible, but I haven't seen any proof of it yet. So
he says he's currently running a TP-Link BE800 in mesh mode with an older Wi-Fi 6 router as the satellite, and surprisingly, combination works well. He said no interference issues.
That's good.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
Where's the problem? Don't bug me unless you got a problem.
Yeah, I don't see a question mark in there. Okay, now Werewolf 2500. Can we get chapter markers for questions? It would be nice to be able to skip over AI related questions. Not sure. Well, I'm not getting too many of those anymore, I don't think.
Yeah. As soon as he types them in and posts them, we'll have them, and then we can update the description.
Yeah, so there's a couple things going on. It may eventually come. It'd be nice if it did. I've got the questions. Dave and I recorded this. It goes off to Joseph. He edits it. It goes back to Dave. He takes a look at it, publishes. I don't have access to the publishing. I don't have Final Cut. So to circle all that around and connect all those things it's a not insignificant amount of extra work for all three of us. Someday we may get that centered a little bit better, but we'll listen to the whole thing. We're fine with that. Tracy Reed, at 2 minutes and 25. Oh, are fragmented drives still a thing? Says it hasn't seen a defragger running since the mid-90s.
Yeah, things do still get fragmented, not near as bad with NTFS as FAT. But it doesn't really matter because the seek time on an SSD is the same no matter where the next sector lives. On a hard drive, if your disk is fragmented, it has to step from one place all the way to another track far down. That's going to take a physical long time to move a piece of metal. Whereas SSDs, it just goes there instantly. So fragmentation is not a big problem.
Chris Hill says, a good video showing the basics and some customization. In relation to the book, any plans to make it an audiobook and release to other regions like Australia?
Both are available in audiobook form now. The first book is AI audio, which is actually pretty good.
Oh.
And the second book is a guy with a really nice voice reading it to you. And
okay. I didn't know you'd done both, and I didn't realize one was full AI. Okay.
Yeah.
You did the genuine read audiobook first from the English dude? No, he's an American guy, right? From New York, isn't he?
They both came out at about the same time.
Oh, they did? Okay.
I mean, Amazon basically did it automatically, and I just had to say, okay, on the other one. But, doing the actual audiobook for the second book was a much bigger undertaking, but we got that done. It took like half a year to get that wrapped up. But it's out there now, and it's on Amazon. So what is it called? The non-visible part of the autism spectrum. Check it out.
And it should be available even on the other side of the equator.
Yeah, it's opened up for sale in Australia.
Earth's alleged
I know.
other hemisphere. Yeah.
Alleged.
Yeah. This is stupid. It was it SpaceX? No, it was someone. Oh, the Australians launched a rocket a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think they're a little sensitive about it, so be careful. But go ahead.
And it didn't go too well. And someone had done a video and they'd flipped it upside down and made the statement that the Australians can't even drop a rocket. So it looks like it falls off the earth and then it sort of comes back.
Snaps
I mean,
back
it's
up.
it's a lot of a trope, but for those of us on the upper side of the hemisphere, it was pretty funny. Then I felt bad for them. Last question here. We'll leave it for Dan Marr. I'm not sure if this is directed at us or in general, but it says, Dave, you are a very clever man. First, congratulations on the 1 million subs. Second,
Thank you.
Do you think you could write an app that removes all the ums and ahs in audio? That would be one of the greatest gifts to humanity.
I bet you could. I wonder if it would then just skip automatically. I try not to and ah too much. I certainly don't in the scripted episodes. We try to do it not too much in this. And it should be a pretty simple task for AI. Like just when my voice cracked there, it could fix that too and not make me sound like I'm serving fries. But I have not seen a good tool to do it. The one I would also like is the one that removes gaps. That give it my Final Cut project and run the wizard on it and have the wizard take out any ums, ahs, and gaps. And that would be, the first 30% of my editing would be done for me right there.
So it'd be the awkward TiVo, non-commercial, cutting out ums, ahs, and gaps for, video. Yep. Should be possible. AI, another thing it can do. Yeah.
Is there anything it can't do? That's amazing.
Yeah, like rock stars. What can't they do? Anyway, that's the last of the questiones that I have for you, Dave. So I'll pass it back to you. And
all right. Well, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, please. We're still trying to grow the subscriber base. Tune in next week. We try to release it every Friday if we can. And look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, thanks, and we'll see you later. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.